I've showcased several videos already demonstrating how far PCSX2 has come. By no means is it the finished article, but for the most part games tend to run well on the emulator. However, there is still one area where it struggles, and that is with open world games. I saw all kinds of issues weighing down these games. Either there was lots of artifacting, or the image was ghosting, or there were severe performance drops. Spider-Man 3 disappointed me the most because its first level actually played flawlessly. But as soon as I stepped outside, this happened. Spider-Man 2 came closest to fully playable, but after a while the broken shadows started bothering me. The Getaway's cutscenes played in slow motion, although it seemed to run at full speed in-game. True Crime, New York City, had the opposite problem. Cutscenes were fine, but in-game performance was not great. I don't even know where to start with The Godfather. The graphics are a mess, unfortunately. Most of these issues can be fixed by switching to software mode, but I don't consider such games playable. Anyway, now we can move on to the playable games. Mafia is lowest on my list, not because it's necessarily bad, but because it cannot compare to the superior PC version. Loading screens were long, in-game cutscenes were replaced with pre-rendered cinematics, and texture resolution was deprecated. Despite all this, you are getting the full experience, even if it's not as impressive as the PC version. Mercenaries, Playground of Destruction is an action-packed game that pushes the PS2 to its limits. There were minor frame drops during explosions, but otherwise it played fine. I must say though, the animations are very polished, and the graphics look really nice when upscaled on the emulator. Before Red Dead Redemption, there was Gun. It was released on virtually every console, including the PlayStation Portable. It even won Game of the Year on Xbox 360. Gun boasted good graphics for a PS2 title, but its strength was definitely its combat. GTA 3 laid the groundwork for the games that followed. It hasn't aged very well, probably because it lacks the style that was introduced in Vice City. The lack of motorcycles is hard to overlook, and the music stations aren't as memorable, but the game is still a lot of fun. The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction was built on the same engine as Prototype, and there are similarities in gameplay as well. For example, Hulk can jump as high as a skyscraper, clamber up walls, and eviscerate enemies with monstrous power. Surprisingly, I never experienced any performance issues, even when there was lots of action on screen.
Henry's oldest son, Nick, of all people, is one of those kids. I hear he's a hell of a cop, but will he live to see the sunset? I don't know.
True Crime, Streets of LA features a 240 square mile recreation of a large part of Los Angeles, including most of Beverly Hills and Santa Monica. It's a very ambitious game, featuring a branching storyline and boasting better hand-to-hand combat than the GTA games. What sets Total Overdose apart from other games in my list is the bullet time mechanic. It's similar to Max Payne and Stranglehold, but it plays off in an open world. While not graphically amazing, Total Overdose provides complete freedom to the player, and often there are more than one way to defeat enemies. Driver, Parallel Lines focuses on a getaway driver named TK, who seeks revenge on a gang he worked with during his youth. It departed from Driver 3 in many ways, feeling more lifelike and interactive. The game's main gimmick is that it plays off during two distinct decades in New York. One is in 1978, and the other during 2006, when the protagonist is released from prison. The Simpsons Hit and Run really did the show justice. It captured the feel of Springfield perfectly, mirroring locations from the series in accurate detail. It's lighthearted and completely safe for kids, despite the game being a straight parody of GTA.
Say hello to my little friend! Your horse!
Scarface, The World Is Yours, asks the question, what if Tony Montana didn't die at the end of the movie? And what would the continuing story look like in a video game? Well, ponder no more, because this game answers that question. Indeed, Scarface feels like a continuation of the movie, and many characters return to add substance to the story. While Pacino doesn't lend his vocal talents to the game, the actor who voices Tony sounds just like the real deal.
Ah, yes. So you must be Hopkins.
Uh-huh.
What? Uh-huh. What?
I meant yes, sir.
Very good. Now
Bully does feel somewhat confined when compared to GTA. However, the game does open up later, allowing the player to explore surrounding areas outside the school. When not performing missions, the player can attend classes, which are presented as mini-games. Because the game's story spans an entire school year, the game world changes as the seasons change between chapters, most notably during the third chapter, which takes place around the Christmas season. I'm going to lump both Yakuza games here because they follow on from one another. There are some differences. For example, Yakuza 2 ditched English voiceovers and the fighting is slightly improved over the first game. Both games contain realistic depictions of Tokyo and Osaka. It should be noted that these are some of the highest rated PS2 games, especially in Japan, and have sold particularly well in that country.
Oh, there's this retired colonel, Colonel Juan Garcia Cortez. He's the one that helped me set up this deal well away from Vice City's established thugs, okay? Now,
Of all the GTA games, Vice City is the most stylish. It's not hard to see why, especially when you drive around the city and see the fantastic buildings and colorful backdrops. Its story has better pacing and is a lot more open-ended than San Andreas. The game was heavily influenced by the films and television of the era, most notably Scarface and Miami Vice, but the story is partly based on real people, although their names were changed for the game. San Andreas wins for its overwhelming content alone. There was so much to do, like playing cards, basketball, pool, and a host of other activities. CJ could even get fat. And honestly, the game had such depth that players could distract themselves endlessly. Many people don't know this, but San Andreas actually played off before the events of GTA 3. For example, Claude made an appearance with Catalina in one of the later missions. There's still a couple when we see them together in San Andreas. Of course, she betrays him at the start of GTA 3. But unfortunately, we've reached the end of my video. If you've come this far, how about giving a like? It really helps with the algorithm. See you next time and have a nice day.